Good day, everyone. Let's talk about comparing economic systems. Economic systems includes socialism, capitalism, and communism. But first, let's define what the economy is. The economy, in the simplest terms, economies consist of producing goods and exchanging them. They are fundamentally social systems. Economies can be divided into formal and informal economies. A formal economy is the legal economy of a nation state, as measured by a government's gross national product or the GNP, or the market value of all products and services produced by a country's companies in a given year. While informal economies are frequently less institutionalized and include all economic practices that are neither taxed nor monitored by a government. Economies are fundamentally social systems. They require exchange or transactions. It is impossible for an individual to participate in an economy entirely independent of others. One cannot think of economies as a discrete entities. Economic systems necessarily interact with social and political systems. The first economic system we have is socialism. Socialism is an economic system in which the means of production are socially owned and used to meet human needs, not to create profits. The word socialism also began to use in the 1830s to describe a system different from capitalism. Socialism held that groups of people should own and regulate the economy for the benefit of all members, not just a few. Early 19th century socialists were often disturbed by the economic and social changes caused by the Industrial Revolution. In the first half of the 19th century, socialist ideals inspired utopian communities such as the Transcendentalist Brook Farm, Robert Owen's New Harmony, and the Oneida community. An even older ideal of Christian socialism described in the Bible inspired religious socialist communities such as the Shakers, Rapides, Amana colonies, and the Hutterites. Even the term social studies allude to how a community or wider society benefits from a shared knowledge. In socialism, the means of production refers to the tools, technology, buildings, and other materials used to make the goods or services in an economy. Social ownership of the means of production can take many forms. It could refer to cooperative enterprises, common ownership, direct public ownership, or autonomous state enterprises. Social ownership contrasts with capitalist ownership, in which the means of production are used to create a profit. In the socialist economic system, the means of production would instead be used to directly satisfy economic demands and human needs. Accounting would be based on physical quantities or a direct measure of a labor time instead of on profits and expenses. Although socialism is often associated with Karl Marx, it has evolved to take a variety of forms. As a political movement, socialism includes a diverse array of political philosophies, ranging from reformism to revolutionary socialism, from a planned economy to a market socialism. In a planned economy, the means of production are publicly owned and the government is in charge of coordinating and distributing the production. By contrast, in the market socialism, the means of production may be publicly or cooperatively owned, but they are operate in a market economy. That is, market socialism uses the market and monetary prices to allocate and account for the means of production and the products they create. However, that profit would be used to remunerate employees or finance public institutions, not to benefit private owners. Now, let's go to democratic socialism. Democratic socialism combines the political philosophy of democracy with the economic philosophy of socialism. The term can refer to a range of political and economic organizational schemes. On one end, a democratic socialism may combine a democratic national political system with a national economy based on a socialist principles. On the other hand, democratic socialism may refer to a system that uses democratic principles to organize workers in a firm or community, for example, in worker cooperatives. The term is used by socialist movement and organizations to emphasize the democratic character of their political orientation. Democratic socialism contrasts with political movements that resort to authoritarian, which means to achieve a transition to socialism. Rather than focus on a central planning, democratic socialism advocates the immediate creation of decentralized economic democracy from the grassroots level, which means undertaken by and for the working class itself. Specifically, it is a term used to distinguish between socialists who favor grassroots level and spontaneous revolution referred to as gradualism from those socialists who favor Leninism, which means organized revolution instigated and directed by an overarching vanguard party that operates on the basis of democratic centralism. Now, let's go to the second economic system, capitalism. Capitalism is an economic and social system in which capital and non-labor factors of production or the means of production are privately controlled, like labor, goods, and capital are traded in markets. Profits are taken by owners or invested in technologies and industries, and wages are paid to the laborers. Though capitalism has developed incrementally since the 16th century, Scottish philosopher and economist Adam Smith is largely credited with outlining the theory in its most fully fledged form in his 1776 tome, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes to the Wealth of Nations. Capitalism and socialism first came into the use in the 1830s. Capitalism described an economic system in which wealth or capital, another word for wealth, was owned by individuals for their personal profit. The British policy of government regulation of trade, called mercantilism, was being abandoned by the 1830s, and the free market, not the government, determined the production and distribution of goods. The word capitalism was a product of the changing economy of Great Britain during the Industrial Revolution. Under capitalism, we have the market and the government. A market is a central space of exchange through which people are able to buy, sell goods, and services. In a capitalist economy, the prices of goods and services is mainly controlled through the principles of supply and demand competition. Supply and demand refers to the balancing of the amount of a good or services produced and the amount available for sale. Prices rise when demand exceeds supply and fall when supply exceeds demand. The market coordinates itself through pricing until a new equilibrium price and quantity is reached. Competition arises when many producers are trying to sell the same or similar kinds of products to the same buyers. And under the government, though the market is encouraged to act on its own, in any capitalist economy, the government is intimately involved in regulating the economy. This can be done through antitrust law or minimum wage laws. On a far more basic level, the government allows individuals to own private property and individuals to work where they please. The government generally allows business to set wages and prices for products without much interference. Government is responsible for issuing money, supervising public utilities, and enforcing private contracts. Government agencies regulate the standards of services in many industries, such as airlines and broadcasting, and they finance a wide range of programs. Additionally, the government regulates the flow of capital uses methods and such as interest rates to control factors such as unemployment. Now, let's go to the last economic system, communism. Communism, sometimes referred to as revolutionary socialism, also originated as a reaction to the Industrial Revolution and came to be defined by Marx theories which taken to their extreme end. In fact, Marxists often refer to the socialism as the first necessary phase on the way from capitalism to communism. Marx and Engels themselves didn't consistently or clearly differentiate communism from socialism, which helped ensure lasting confusion between the two terms. Communism was the first French word coined in the 1840s to describe a system of collective ownership in which individuals did not own private property and worked together for the benefit of all community members. This new French word described ideals similar to the English concept of socialism and derived from the word common, meaning something is free or open to everyone. The word communism was adopted by Karl Marx and Frederick Engels in the 1850s to describe their ideology of opposing industrial capitalism. Marxist communism sought the overthrow of governments supporting a capitalist economy. By 1918, communism was the ideology of Russia's Bolshevik Revolution and was associated with a single authoritarian political party. The combined economic and political ideology of modern communism was implemented in the Soviet Union in 1922, the People's Republic of China in 1948, the North Korea 1948, North Vietnam 1945, and in Cuba 1965. Under communism, there is no such thing as a private property. All property is communally owned and each person receives a portion based on what they need. A strong central government or the state controls all aspects of economic production and all provides citizens with their basic necessities including food, housing, and medical care and education. And in communism, a violent revolution in which the workers rise up against the middle and upper classes is seen as an inevitable part of achieving a pure communist state. Today, communism exists in China, Cuba, North Korea, Laos, and Vietnam, although in reality a purely communist state has never existed. Such countries can be classified as communist because in all of them, the central government controls all aspects of the economic and political system, but none of them have achieved the elimination of personal property, money, or class system that in conclusion, I will flash in the screen a table that concludes all the meanings of what socialism, capitalism, and communism all about.